What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of Waynecast. I'm Rob Johnson. On today's show, no Chris Williams, unfortunately, as I am in the Louisville Speakeasy for a rare in-person studio appearance, we'll call it. And joining me in the studio is my friend Marvin Greenfield. What's happening, sir?
Hey, how y'all doing? Marvin Greenfield, Right Way Hauling.
Yes, sir. So Marvin, you and I came in to contact through a kind of a business lead, just under a year ago. And what propagated this whole interview was I put out on Facebook that I was looking for a business owner to talk about minimum wage. Yeah. I have some, we'll call it controversial views on minimum wage as a business owner. And you direct messaged me, as did a few other people, and said, let's talk. Yeah. And I was like, I'm coming to Louisville in January, so let's get this done. So here we are.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So to kick off the interview, Marvin, I just want to just kind of give the listeners at home just like a 30 to 60 second elevator pitch. You are a unique individual in that you understand transparency online really well. And that is something we try to instill in everybody that we work with, and we try to work with people that have that same philosophy to business. Because if you put everything on Front Street, you have nothing in the closet, and that's to me, that's been the best way to operate my company. And you are a similar practitioner in that, we'll call it.
Right.
So just give the folks at home 30 to 60 seconds on the DNA of who Marvin G is.
Well, I was raised by good folks. My parents were good people, and they instilled in me things that needed to be instilled in me and that we should be instilling in our kids. And, with me, as with Wayne Media, you're right. Transparency is everything. And if I open the book, there's nothing to be hidden. And, integrity is everything. That's a must. And that's what people don't realize. It's not about what you're doing when people watch you. It's about what you're doing when people ain't watching you.
Yeah.
And so more or less, it's not when I'm in front of people, I'm not so worried about what they're seeing me do. It's when I'm by myself and what he's seeing me do that matters most to me.
Absolutely.
And that's just something my dad instilled in me. As far as transparency goes, people want real. They don't want fake.
Right.
I told you before I come in here, I thought maybe I should put a suit on, and then I told my wife, absolutely not. I'm going as Marvin Greenfield.
There you go. I'll have you move a bit closer to the mic as we press forward. But I think that business owners, I talked to, we had our paper do a story on Speakeasy up in Michigan. And one of the things I said to her never got published, and I understand why. But I said, I think the majority of the business owners in Main Street are going to be closed in the next 5 years if they don't lead with some type of face, some type of integrity, some type of transparency that allows somebody to see who you are. Because at the end of the day, like, we can talk about shop small business and keep local and all that stuff, and that sounds good. But for me as a consumer, I'm not going to do business with you just because you're local or just because you're small. You need to have another angle, because everyone in that community, theoretically, unless they're a chain, is local and small. There needs to be another dimension to that business.
I agree with you 100%, Rob. When I'm selling to my clients, my main focus point is, hey, you can leave us here, and you can go take care of what you got to take care of, and I'm going to take care of what you wanted taken care of.
Yeah.
And then when you get back, you're going to go, yeah, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. Right. And that's the main thing is, you tell someone you're going to do something, you do it. And if that means, we named our company Right Way, but if that means that I do something wrong, I go back and make it right.
Right.
It don't mean I don't make mistakes. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But one of many reasons why we chose the name Right Way is I'm willing to go back and right my wrongs.
Yeah. Well, you're willing to own up to what wasn't promised to the customer, which is an odd thing for people. And when I meet with businesses and consult them on marketing strategy, one question that comes up fairly often is, well, how do I handle reviews? the more I put myself out there, the more there's going to be this seedy competitor or this customer that is going to confuse me with somebody else, and they're going to leave a bad review. So what happens is that business owner takes the approach of, well, now I'm not going to put myself out there for fear of, someone leaving me a bad review. And I tell them the same thing every time. If you don't control your own narrative and tell your own story, somebody else is going to. Mm-hmm. So you need to not get ahead of it, but you need to blaze that trail. That way you can control your narrative and not somebody else.
Right. 82 reviews in, we've gotten 5 stars. You talk about reviews, and here's the thing, is I want the good and the bad. I don't just want the good. I want the bad so I can correct it. I have a background in ironwork, and they train us to spot the mistake before we make the mistake, especially in the line of work we do.
Right.
And I'm taking that into my company. What I've learned in ironwork, I'm applying it in these people's homes.
Yeah. Because most of the issues that happen or that are going to come down is going to largely be process issues.
Right.
It's not the way the job was done, it's the process for which it was laid out.
Yep.
So that might sound strange to people when you say you got to spot the mistake before they happen. That is a procedural thing.
Yeah.
If we know, like for us, how our SEO is supposed to be structured on a page, that is a procedure that helps us have good results. Not that, we need to see it before we've written a word. It's the process needs to be good before we execute.
Right. Yeah, it's I forget, my wife says it all the time. Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's even, as far as me getting up at 5 a.m. every morning. And there's a reason behind everything. There's a right way to do everything.
Yeah.
And you'll notice it in your everyday life. If you leave one of them steps out, you're going to have a mistake through the day.
Right. I'm with you on there's a right way to do things. I don't think 5 a.m. is the right way. I'm more of a 6:15 type of guy myself.
You're on them banker hours.
That's what you keep telling me, but that's not true. It's bankers plus 15 to 20 minutes at the end of the day. So there's
right. There you go. You got to put it in though, especially when you're opening your own company and getting it up and running. There's a lot of hours that go in. My wife and kids have to do without me a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm sacrificing. And what people don't realize, and you said we're going to get into minimum wage. It's kind of touching on it.
Yeah.
You got to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to sacrifice, you're not going to get very far in this life.
Yeah. I went to dinner with some friends last night down here, and they just said, well, how are things going? And they're both business owners as well. And I said, I'm just trying to figure out how to lead well, like how to structure and scale a business. And one of them made a joke, and she said, she's like, yeah, but being a business owner is so easy. You just set your own hours, there's no problems, because that's the perception that people have is, when you're the man at the top, when you're running the show, it's 10 to 4, 4 days a week, super easy. And that's just not a reality of any meaningful business owner that's going to, put that effort in. There has to be balance, of course, but there's going to be sacrifice. There's going to be late nights. There's going to be super early mornings. There's going to be weekends. It's just a fact of life when you're growing something meaningfully.
Well, you talk about friends. I had a friend say, well, you could work 3 days a week and be off the rest.
You certainly could.
You won't find success with a mentality like that.
You won't.
And most people know now that I don't work Sundays. It's family time. And I had to do it because my wife will tell you, I get up and I go, and I go and I go and I go. And sometimes we was talking about it yesterday with some guys that's in business, new in business. You don't stop working. No. And this whole, you can work 10 to 4 and be done. No, you might want to keep your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Because do I enjoy it? Absolutely. I love what I do. And my landlord says it all the time. I'm building a life, not to get rich and famous, that I don't have to take a vacation from.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I think the key to longevity in business is enjoying it. And same thing in my industry. I love this. To me, business is a game, and I love playing it.
Yeah.
You know, I use that example all the time. We're out here playing chess. Who's got the best strategy? You know, who can make the best moves? That is, to me, the most fun part of my job is this game that we're all trying to master.
So the game you're talking about, the game is a lot of people don't realize this, and you're supposed to be evenly yoked in everything you do. One, that's why I chose Wayne Media as my marketing team.
Yeah.
You want to yoke yourself, just like me and my wife. We're evenly yoked. She carries half the load.
Yeah.
She don't dump it all on me. I
Right.
carry half the load. I don't dump it all on her.
Right.
She takes care of the babies better. I mean, that's just a proven
It
fact.
seems natural.
Give me all the business you want to give me. Put my 2 baby daughters in my hand, and it's like I go haywire.
Yeah.
But you want to be evenly yoked, even with your customers.
Right.
And you're going to have some customers that you're just not evenly yoked with. And if you're not evenly yoked, it's not going to be a good business deal.
Right.
But that's part of the game. Is I got to find the customers that I'm evenly yoked with, the business partners that, such as Wayne Media. I told you before, Wayne Media is a part of Right Way's team. You know how many calls I get a day? We can get you #1 on a Google list.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm like,
I'm sure it's
yeah,
overwhelming.
contact Wayne Media.
Yeah, don't do that. Just tell them not to call anybody. I don't want to talk to them either. All right, so let's get into the discussion, Marvin. So I'll lay the field. I'll give my position on minimum wage. If we disagree, it's completely fine. Like I am excited to learn something today.
Okay.
And at the very minimum, I'm going to learn exactly what your position is on minimum wage as a business owner. So when I started Wayne Media, it was me and Johnstone, and he was controlling Louisville in terms of sales. I was controlling Michigan in terms of sales. And the deal was whatever area developed faster, we would put a speakeasy in. So that was the game plan. So as I hired my first person, I thought long and hard about what I needed to hire that first person at from a wage perspective and what their quality of life would be based on the wage, right? I have the philosophy that business owners have a fiduciary duty to take care of the people that are under them. So I don't think the government should be involved in any type of legislation that dictates what a business owner ought to pay, especially at a federal level. I can make a constitutional argument for the state, but at a federal level, we're so geographically different. Cost of living in San Francisco is way different than it is in Butte, Montana, right? So my position has always been that it is the business owner's responsibility and it is the community of business leaders' responsibility as a whole to encourage quality of life for their employees. So I personally had set a minimum wage for our company at $15 an hour when we came in because we're a marketing company. I am not going to find creative professionals at a minimum wage level. It's not going to happen. And even if I could, and that minimum wage didn't compute to a meaningful cost of living for somebody spending their full-time life with me at work, and they can't go do anything else because they're here with me full-time, that was my standard, is can we pump out a product that gives a good quality of life based on the region that we're in to the people that work for us? Forget the government, forget anything, any legislation, forget any political talking points. This is a relationship between me and my team, and can I go to sleep feeling good about what I'm paying that person? In Butte, it might be $8 an hour. In Idaho, it might be $12. In New York, it might be 15 or 20. Who knows? But what I'm saying is, as a business owner, to me, it is that person's responsibility to have that dialogue with himself and figure it out.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with you on that. First off, let's cut politics all the way out of it, because I tell people all the time, you're not sitting down and eating with them folks.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
And people get so
most
cut
of the
up
politicians have never even ran a business. So let's start with that.
Or worked a minimum wage job. They were handed the position they got. So my take on minimum wage, and as far as my guys go, I'll just put it out there. You pay a man what he's worth. And minimum wage is so touchy because you can hurt some feelings, and you know the
Real quick, whose feelings are you going to hurt? Like at the end of the day,
the ones that are making money off the raising the minimum wage. So, anyways, let's take feelings out of it. The thing of it is minimum wage. There's a reason it was set, and for people to come in and double minimum wage, that's a big no-no. You're going to cripple the society. And as far as telling me what I need to pay my guys, me and my guys work out. One of my employees says each man cuts his own deal. You're exactly right. I've cut my deal in life. You cut your deal in life when it comes to work. Nobody should step in and say, okay, I'm going to play mediator. I come from a union family. You know that. I'll give you a little history on something my dad shared with me. Ford Motor Company was making more than a union iron worker. So they went on strike. They went on strike, one, because a guy screwing a bolt on shouldn't be making more. Now, he's on the ground, shouldn't be making more than a union iron worker. And we're talking, I want to say the 50s. May have been sooner than that. He shouldn't be making more than a man that's putting his life in danger 30 stories in the air.
Okay.
So they went to bat for it. They got more money, and they got their raise. They cut their own deal in life. Since then, all the union trades raises have come up. I support unions 100%. I dropped out of school. We'll talk about me instead of everybody else.
Sure.
I dropped out of school at 16 years old. I went to work for, I believe it was $6.25 an hour. It may have been less than that at CC's Pizza. I wanted more money.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the boss and say, hey, I want you to double my pay. I said, hey, how can I make more money? You can work more hours. So I dropped out of school, and at 16 years old, I worked 70 hours a week. I was probably making more money than any 16-year-old in that time. I'd work 70 to 80 hours a week from the time the place opened till the time the place closed. I'm sure Dave Lay loved me. I'm sure he did.
Didn't love that overtime bill, I'm sure.
No, but see, it was different then, So if I was $6.25, time and a half was $9.50.
Yeah, $9.50, yeah, that's not a factor.
But like I was telling you earlier, you double minimum wage, and what you're going to have, people don't realize it. So let's say we go around and we knock all the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. Well, what happens is you end up paying $15 for a cheeseburger. These people that are in business are not silly. They're not going to eat the cost of having to pay their employee double the money. So everything goes up the ladder. And that's the thing. And then you take away the drive. People's drive to want to progress.
Yeah.
So you give a guy that's flipping a burger $15 an hour, but yet you got a rod buster out here on a deck making $16.29 an hour. And I mean, they absolutely kill themselves. Trust me, I've been there. Especially being an overweight guy packing rebar and bending over all day tying rods.
Sure.
So what happens is they're going to start wanting more money. So you're driving the cost of living up.
Yeah.
And they've already drove it up, and they ain't even moved the minimum wage yet because they're preparing for what's coming.
Well, most of like the fast food workers are already at the 11, 12, 13, 14 range, at least in the Midwest, right? I don't know. I can't tell you the demographics in the coasts. When it comes to that discussion, so I have a couple different philosophies. One, if you've scaled your business on a minimum wage labor force, probably not a good idea, because that is subject to economic changes like the minimum wage going up. And if you're crippled by, and one, the majority of workers, vast majority of workers in the States don't even touch minimum wage, but a lot of them are still in that poverty level category. That's the bigger discussion that I like having on this is, are we encouraging business owners to not pay people poverty wages? I don't want legislation. I don't want states or the Fed to do something about it. I want the business owners to have those conversations with their people, kind of like what you said, cut your own deal. That person needs to know what they're worth. They need to talk to the business owner appropriately about that. And it's the business owner's responsibility to structure their business in a way that can support that.
So, you talk about that, and I'm going to bring it back to Right Way and how I operate Right Way.
Yeah.
I didn't hire my guys saying, yeah, this is what you're going to make. I'm looking into the future, and a lot of people don't do that. And me and my wife like to do that. When we got married, before we got married, we're not looking at the picture right now.
Yeah.
I want to see the whole picture.
Right.
And that includes my guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to, right now, on average, my drivers make about 17 an hour. I'm not as big as the other companies.
Yeah.
I'm not. Am I going to be? Absolutely. I'm not Kentucky's #1 choice for no reason. And so with that being said, when I go, I'm taking my guys with me.
Right.
And if you get in business to get rich, you got in business for the wrong reasons. Some people will say I'm wrong for saying that. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, what I'm trying, like you said, we're responsible.
Right.
And I can get honest right now. Christmas hit, and we've kind of slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
I got 3 other families now that I have to make sure ain't starving.
Yep.
And that's the difference between me and these other guys. I've heard through the grapevine, because you hear stuff.
Right.
I'm not going to let my guys starve. And if that means that I do jobs and I'm just paying my guys and covering expenses, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Like you said, I don't want to bring a guy in at 15 an hour and not progress him too.
Right.
That's not good business. My old man said, you take care of those who take care of you.
Right.
So when I get to where I'm going, I'm not going to be there by myself. You got to have somebody to share it with, and it's not just going to be my family. It's going to be the guys that stood behind me and said, yeah, Right Way is going to be Kentucky's #1 choice.
Yeah.
They go with me.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That is what I encourage business owners to do, because there's a lot of discussion on if minimum wage doubles, cost of living goes up. Of course, expenses are going to be passed down the chain to the consumer. That's just how things work. It's supply and demand. It's an economics 101 discussion. Let's go beyond that and talk about the responsibility that business owners haven't been evoking to take care of their people well. That is my frustration with a lot of quote unquote leaders, is they haven't had those conversations with their people. They haven't structured their business to be, you use the example of looking into the future. That's exactly right. They haven't done that. What do the next 3 months look like? I'm talking about the next 3 decades.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. In order to lead, you have to learn to follow.
Right.
And I didn't get to where I'm at today by leading. I got to where I'm at today by learning to follow. And these guys that aren't looking to further their employees, they're not going to go very far. Like you said, what's the next 3 months look like for them? A lot of people's going to walk away from them because a guy like me, I have people from other companies that are reaching out to me and said, man, I want to work for you. When I get the work, you got it. They want to work for me because I don't just lead. I get in there with them and I work with them. If they don't know how to do something, I show them how to do it. And the problem with a lot of companies is, especially starting out, and they'll get to a point where I don't have to now. And when you get that mentality, when you're not showing up to introduce yourself to the customer, people don't like that.
Right.
They want to see you in there with your guys. If one of my guys is hurting, guess what? We're hurting. I'm not going to share on what I do for my guys, but I stopped and seen one. He was sick this week. He ain't doing without this week either.
Yeah.
And that's just what you do.
Right. And that's, especially in the small business sector, like I fully understand when you get to the C-suite level, when you're in the large corporation category, the man at the top cannot possibly make time for the thousands of employees they have. That's why you put in leaders. That's why you have decentralized command. All these business philosophies that are super critical. On the small business level, it's a responsibility to the people that are working for you. And if you don't take that responsibility, I'm going to call you out if you're not doing what you should be doing. Because while it doesn't directly impact me, it sure as hell indirectly impacts me with the community, with the tone that's being set. And I'm just not about that. I want business owners to be accountable for what they're doing. And I haven't seen a lot of that. Instead, I've seen this very passive attitude of this is just a number on a spreadsheet, not a person. Hate that.
Yeah, I don't know how you could get very far in life treating people like that. Like I said, with the first thing, when you work for me, you're part of my family because he's not working for you. And I went into business for myself to where I didn't have to answer to nobody but the Lord.
Yeah.
Period. Well, these men that work for me, yeah, they work for me. I'm providing a means to earn, to put food on their table.
Yeah.
Guess what? They answer to the Lord too. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. As far as you touched on big corporation, man, I don't know about you, but if I get 1,000 employees, I'm going to be sure I'm shaking their hand every once in a while. And when I do have people in charge of 100 employees apiece, I'm going to be making sure they're doing what I would do.
Right.
And treating my workers the way that I would treat them. Yeah. And if it don't, somebody's got to go.
Yeah. Yeah, the corporation I used to work at had, I think 2,500 people at the one location, 5,000 nationwide. Yeah. So like our VP would typically be in charge of like 125 to 250 people. You would meet with him once a year for maybe 15 minutes. Yeah. And people would be like, well, that's not that much time. And if you really think about it, like that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
He's spending 15 minutes times 200 people for these touch points that are not totally necessary because he has managers that do that. But it's that philosophy of, how do you scale? And like you said, keep your philosophy of leadership instilled in those that are down the chain.
Yeah. And you do. And, I'm not going to put a guy in charge of my guys unless I know that he has the same morals and beliefs that I do.
Right.
I don't want a guy that's going to come in and when I'm not around, basically slave drive my guys.
Right.
If you're not showing my guys appreciation, you don't need to be in the position that I put you in. And my guys know that. Yeah. I won't hold no punches.
Right.
And I have a certain set of standards. One's integrity. Two, you treat people how you want to be treated. And, we set an example. When you go out in the world, whether you know it or not, you're either setting a good example or you're setting a bad example.
Right.
And I choose to be the good example. And I want people to see that and go, man, look how this guy's living. And look how he's prospering. Yeah. There's a reason I'm prospering. It ain't got nothing to do with Marvin Greenfield. It's got to do with God. And that's the bottom line. But it's because I get up and I do the same thing every day. What was once routine has become habit.
Yeah.
And since I've formed that habit, my life, peace and serenity, even in business, I can go home at night and I still have serenity. I'm not all stressed out, worried about everything. But back to treating your people and putting the pay in their pockets that needs to be put in, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. So if I hire a man, it's an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. And a lot of people don't get it. But if you're taking an hour lunch, I say it all the time. If you're allotted a half-hour lunch and you take an hour, so let's say all my employees take an extra half hour, whether they know it or not, when integrity gets involved, you're stealing from the company.
Yeah.
And some people don't view it that way, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely one of those corporate gray areas of, especially like on the small business level. I can definitely see how it has the impact, and that's where, again, as the leader, set the standards, hold people accountable, and that's and whatever standard you set and follow is the one that most people are going to gravitate toward. On the subject of retention, so you mentioned keeping people on board, right? So I look at employee retention. When I was doing my MBA, it was what I wrote my thesis on, was how do companies retain people more effectively? And all the research aside, what I found the most astounding was how much money it costs to replace somebody. So there was these tiered systems. So let's say someone makes $15 an hour. The average the average cost rather for a business owner to replace that employee if they leave is anywhere between 10 and 20 grand. So $15K on average to replace an employee.
So to replace an employee, what you don't realize, a lot of people don't slow down and realize, is one. So I'll give you an example. I got this great employee. I mean, great. The kid will do anything I tell him to do, and he made a mistake, and I had to correct him on it, and he went through some hazing because I mean, he did. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it, but outside looking in, I operate a little different around my guys than I do the general public when it comes to worth ethics, and that's because of ironwork. But because as an apprentice, they didn't give us no slack. Like, they called us dumb A's, and you was every name under the book if you didn't do something right. So
you had to earn it.
Yeah, you had to earn it.
Yeah.
So I made this kid earn it. And you're exactly right. To replace this kid, I done invested in him. He's vested, and I'm going to continue to invest in him. We're trying to get him to where he's getting his permit, and he's got his own way to work. And you do. As an employee to boss, when you remove that, one, you don't mix family or friends and business. And my guys know business starts at the door and friendship stops. When we're off, friendship picks back up. It's just how I have to be. It's how I was taught by my father, and I'm going to continue to hold to that. But what you were talking about is I've vested time into this guy. So, yes, it does. It'll cost me 10 grand to do it again.
Yeah. And not just that, not just the investments in that person, but when you have somebody that is a major player, and really and this is the other secret, everyone that is on your team ought to be a major player. Like, everybody on my team, from the person that's been here the longest to the person I just hired, is a major player in our dynamic. 13 people, every one of those 13 matter, right? Mm-hmm. When you have to replace somebody, you have time that I now have to pull a manager to train the new person. Now I have to focus more on that new hire to make sure they're getting spun up well, which means I'm selling less and I'm taking more of my time away from other mission critical things for the business.
Yep.
Just in those couple sentences alone, I could find you 10 to 20 grand.
Yeah,
and that doesn't even count all the things I'm not thinking about.
Yep.
Like the equipment I need to buy them to do the job well, everything else that comes with that. And again, it might be like, well, that's a replacement cost of what the other employee had, but there's residuals that build up that you need to replace. And it's a missed topic. And, I go to like chamber events and talk about like our hiring processes, and I get some weird sideways looks when I say, we don't hire anyone without 3 interviews. And that is shocking to them because like, we don't have time for that. But you do have time to hire somebody once, not get to know them, realize it was an atrocious mistake, fire them, and then have to go through that entire hiring process once more. You have time for that. But you don't have time for 3 interviews? Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it goes back to being evenly yoked.
Right.
I got to be evenly yoked with my employees too.
Right.
It's not just, in business, in marriage. It's everybody you're around. You want to be evenly yoked, because if you're not, what you have is you got somebody in the ranks, and like you said, they're all equal. It's a level playing field. Even with me, hey, it's a level playing field here. Watch, I'm getting ready to go do this job. I'm going to load up 3/4 of the load by myself, and show you guys that I'm not just running the business. I'm helping operate the business as well.
Yeah.
And so evenly yoked. It goes right back to evenly yoked. You have to find these people and invest the time, like you said, 3 interviews. Yeah, because you may have missed something on the first or the second interview that he tells you on the third interview, and you go, ooh, I don't think we're going to be a good match.
Well, we literally ask the same questions the first and the third interview for that purpose.
Yeah.
And then the second interview is all behavioral. Has nothing to do with the job, everything to do with behavior. And again, that's for us. It doesn't mean every business needs to do 3 interviews, but you need to think about your interview process is the whole punchline of that. Why are you doing it? Asking yourself why you're doing a process is the best way to vet it. Is there a purpose behind this, or am I just doing it for the hell of it? And if you don't have that, you don't have a process.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And on the equally yoked thing, just to flesh it out a little bit more, like, I don't need all of my employees to align with me politically or on any other level. They need to be down for the mission. That's it.
There you go.
Like, they need to be down for the mission. Like, I'm not looking for a bunch of yes men that are just going to do, yes, Rob, whatever you say. No, give me some pushback. I tell new employees, I said, it might seem awkward to you, but when you start the first couple weeks, take in everything that everyone's doing. And then if you say, hey, why are we doing it this way? Ask me. Because I love fresh sets of eyes on things that I'm doing, because that'll help me make things better. So that is a culture we try to instill, is like, if you see something that looks odd, ask. Don't feel like, well, I'm new. Who am I to ask? You are the exact same as everyone else, a person working here that has the same rights to ask any questions as someone that's been here for 3 years and someone that's been here for 3 days.
I got to ask Guy. And he does. He asks me questions all day long. Sometimes I got to move him to another track. I love him to pieces. But you're exactly right. And it's good to have people that are going to question things.
Yeah.
Because then it makes me stop and go, hold on, why am I doing it this way? Why am I not trying it this way?
Yeah.
And we do. There's a difference between evenly yoked and, like you said, I don't need them to have the same political views. I don't even need them to have the same spiritual views.
Right.
And to each their own. But what I do need is to realize that I want you to be a part of my team, and I want you to look at the same goal that we're all headed for.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we all have to be aware of that goal and willing to make some sacrifices. Like I said, it can't just sacrifice can't just happen on my side of the team. It's got to happen through all 4 of us.
Yeah.
And then when you get that, the benefits that we're going to reap together, if you're riding with me from the beginning, when we get to the end, you're going to love what we get to do.
Yeah. And that's a critical thing for a business owner to understand, is there is a process involved, and you need to constantly be questioning and redefining that process as things change. Like, the best advice I can give a business owner is, if you're getting ready to get started, get real comfortable with change, because it's not going to stop. And if you're someone that is adverse to it, you're like, I don't do well with change, you need to get really comfortable with it, because it doesn't stop.
No, the hits come.
No.
That's what people don't realize. And if you're not prepared for them hits, it could cripple a small business like me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember I left my corporate job to come do this full time. And within the week after I left, we lost 3 contracts that were signed that someone just flat out changed their mind on. Mm-hmm. So that was about $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year that the contracts were. And then the next month, COVID happened. And we lost about 40% of our cap.
Yep.
So you need to be comfortable with change, and you need to be comfortable with pivoting.
You need to be comfortable with sitting still too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
A lot
another
of
good
people
point too.
does not realize that
That's a good point.
there is how did I say it the other day? There's a reason for every season that we go through.
Yeah.
Whether it be I'm slow right now or I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and my wife will tell you that I get impatient. But
Not you, Marvin.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a very impatient person. It's one of my defects. I'm not proud of, but I'm a here and now, right now, let's get it done kind of guy.
Yeah.
And some of it was my upbringing. My dad was the same way, but we're also if you're not going to do it right now, I'll do it right now kind of guy.
Yeah.
And you got to take the ball in your own hands and do it.
Yeah.
But it's a humbling situation when you go from. We topped records last year. People couldn't believe it. Wayne Media topped records for us last year. I've had business owners go, dude, I don't never see a business take off like yours did.
Yeah.
And I give all credit to God for that and all glory to God for that. But at the end of the day, when we get to Christmas, when we get to New Year's, that's when I got to go, there's a reason he slowed me down.
Yeah.
And I got to be okay with that slow time.
Yeah.
And if you prepare for it.
That's the other thing. If you know it's going to be slow, if you know there's that season moment, like COVID hit, I was like, all right, we can just reorg the entire company. Let's go through all of our process procedure. Let's figure out how we can be better since we don't have the clients that we had yesterday now because of the government shutdowns. And that was just the attitude. But if I would have sat there and cried and been like, oh, I don't have this business, like I'm not focusing on what I can do to keep this ship going, and that's, this is not something I'm built for. It's just, well, there's a problem. Well, I'm not going to solve it. I'm just going to sit on the bench and, just take me out, coach. I don't want any part of this. Like, no, I want to be the general on the field telling you, saying, well, here's what we're doing and why we're doing it, because I want it to be solved.
Well, I agree with you, and in your business and in my business, it's a lot of people don't realize business is the same in every business. As far as my truck might break down, and your computer might crash.
Right.
It's still the same. How am I going to pay for this? And,
it's an outage.
And you got to account for that stuff. And sure enough, the 2 weeks that I've been slow, we made it through it. And what's coming is like, get ready to wow everybody, including myself. But, you got to take the highs, you got to take the lows.
Yeah. And through that process, you learn a tremendous amount about yourself. At least I did. In that time, it was like, I really had some time to reflect on what I've done, how I could have led better, how I need to lead better in the future. And for me, it was a nice time of just self-reflection of like, all right, here's how I can do better.
Man, it's funny you said that. I had a bad day. And yes, I had bad days. Some people, like I said, looking in from the outside, it may look great.
I do podcasts about my bad days, so you're
right.
fine.
So the thing of it is I had a bad day, man, and it was just like, but it was the time to go, man, you know what? Everybody else around me can't be wrong. I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And it was a time to reflect and go,
yep,
well, I'm wrong. All right, let's take a look at this. Let's see what I can change to do better, lead better, and just look at who I am as a person. Because people follow us, whether you realize it or not. People are watching you and being inspired by you.
Yeah.
And whether it be a bad example or a good example. And I had that aha moment. Guess who's wrong? Marvin Greenfield.
Yeah.
Nobody else. And I had to take a look at it, man.
Yeah. The phrase that pops in my head a lot when I have a mistake is, "Yep, that was me."
Yeah.
So that was me. That just keeps like rolling through my head. Like, yeah, nobody else. That was just me. So.
And sometimes it's like a punching bag.
Yeah.
It is. Sometimes it's like a punching bag, and it takes me a few to realize that I was wrong, or really just want to own that I was wrong.
Yeah.
And when it goes to employees and stuff, and they want to see stuff like that in you.
Yeah.
That's what a true leader does. He owns his mistakes and says, "Look, man," and then it don't have to be a permanent mistake. You correct it and make sure it don't happen again.
Yeah.
Do I do that perfectly? No, I don't know anybody that does do it perfectly. But the difference between a winner and a loser is a man's going to own his mistakes.
Yeah.
And as long as I own my mistakes when they happen, I'm good. I'm always learning. And you have to remain teachable.
Love it. That's a tremendous note to end on, Marvin. Tremendous note. I appreciate your time. And I'm hoping that that people at least heard some different perspectives on business and minimum wage that they might not have thought of.
I always enjoy coming out to see you, Rob, and talking to you on the phone. It was an honor to be a guest on Wayne Media. And y'all know what it is. If it ain't right way hauling, it's the wrong way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, friends. Well, that is going to wrap up this week's edition of Waynecast. Appreciate y'all listening. If you can do me a favor, drop a review on Spotify or Apple. That'd mean a lot to me. Just tell us how we're doing, and we'll catch you next week. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.